Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming and more Wild. Today we're talking more Title Update 4 with Chargeblade. We have a lot to cover between the Element and Raw builds today. A lot to update because the meta shift has been big. Whether it's your Gogma Artian weapons, introducing new bases for the weapon, new higher highs for the element potential, the reinforcement bonuses with their EX massive element increases, or the very fact from the patch itself the element cap was increased and Chargeblade was one of the weapons that will be hitting the cap constantly. With that being raised, we can now hit even harder with our element. And there's new gear like the gogmazios set. The 2-piece gives you 20% to your base element, which is the same as something like Ellie Attack 3, and then just a flat 20 element on top. If the monster's enraged, it's really nice to have this bonus. But it wasn't just that. Chargeblade was called out for some really nice mechanical changes, some ease of gameplay, making it smoother, minimal buffs technically, but it's had a real impact. It feels awesome. A quick thank you and credit to Josh for working out the builds, doing the math and comparing it, working out the best options for your group skills and set bonuses with your Gogma Artian rolls. And yeah, he's the man behind the build, so as always, big credit to him. And on top of that, again, the usual thank you to the data miner for the RNG Talisman system, which we're still relying on that information, DTL-NOR. Now I said Chargeblade had some mechanical changes, so I want to highlight them, talk about them quickly. First up, we have the reduced hit stop during multi-hit attacks in Power Axe mode. This is the chainsaw. So as you connect the attack and you hold the button to chainsaw multiple hits, the hit stop there is lessened. This allows you to follow through with the hit and kind of get into the next one a bit quicker. Not too dissimilar to like an attack speed buff or something. It's subtle, but it has an impact as you go through these longer combos and want to chainsaw out. Definitely improving the performance of the weapon. A major one as well is the speed up of morph slash from the axe mode. So going back to your sword and shield and you get that perfect guard moment like a guard point. This activates faster and the actual guard itself is up for longer. So it's incredibly reliable. And what they've done is made it so you can chain into that axe morph slash to get the shield up and go for the guard point from a bunch of different options. Whether it's something like off the back of Element Discharge, or the really cool detail about Element Discharge 2 that normally does 2 swings and then you're back in control, you can now interrupt it after the first swing and go straight into that guard point, as well as off the back of a focus slash and generally comboing into different actions. So overall, smoother feel to the gameplay loop with more forgiveness about trying to swap to shield from your axe from standstill or mid combo. This lets you play more aggressive with the power axe, which now takes less time to actually perform the attacks. Smashing out that shield for the clutch guard points actually regularly, which feels awesome. Okay, so we have a lot to cover today. I'm cutting the video into 2 parts. You have your element builds, which we're going to cover first now, and then we'll get to the raw. We'll be talking about minimal RNG options because there's so much RNG in this update, and then scaling it to the max RNG with your Gogma, with your talismans, and what really is the strongest thing to aim for. But I'll explain the Gogma Artian weapons for both types of playstyle at the start of their own sections. So speaking of which, element builds, element Gogma Artian. When you're actually taking a weapon and upgrading it for the purpose of element, you want to make sure that you do element focus. This changes the base, so we will actually lose 5% affinity but gain 50 element in this case. So for element Chargeblade, this is the TAD device you'll use. Next we have the reinforced rolls. As before, you would have 4 element boost and then 1 sharpness. You do the same thing, but now it's just enhanced. So you have 2 element boost EX and then 2 element boost level 2. This is unlike your raw options, which can get like attack boost 3. Element boost is either 1, 2, or EX for whatever reason. Either way, this is what you're aiming for. But as you can see, a 4 out of 5 roll is still very good, but we're aiming for the 5 out of 5 long term. What do you put in the weapon? You want the element attack, you want load shells, and you want rapid morph. We're still going to be doing tons of the rapid morph combo, which is AED into the follow-up, back into sword and shield, back into AED into the follow-up. So rapid morph is important for that. And then you have the secondary skill, which is basically to help our sharpness. So we try to get everything with handicraft on the back of it. I don't have the perfect rolls to run this on both weapons though. So say for my dragon one, you can see that I don't have rapid morph plus handicraft on a second copy. So I just run whatever I can in that case. For your element sets then, we have a no RNG version and then we have the full on RNG version, starting with the no RNG that anyone can make in Title Update 4, which is fantastic. As you can see, we have the Gore helm in beta, the new Udra Gamma chest piece, the new GOG gloves specifically in alpha, we have the Gore waist in beta for the 2 set, And then we have the new Gog legs, again specifically in alpha. And lastly, the chain charm for burst 3, which is absolutely incredible for the purpose of element. Here are the decorations we use to achieve this skill list. Here is page 1 for you to have a look, and here is page 2 for you to have a look. Ultimately, you're going to get the 2 set of gore and the new 2 set bonus of Gog. So to say that none of that requires any crafted weapon in any special way, no specific Gog bonuses, it's pretty great, but let's look at the math to show you. For Raw, we have 205 base Raw on this weapon, and then flat increases from these sources, bringing us to 250A. Multiply that by 32% for white sharpness, and that gets you to 340.5. Use 65% reliable affinity from these sources. No crit boost in the build, so that's a 25% damage increase 65% of the time, so we multiply that by our last number, and you get a very respectable 395 effective Raw in a fully crafted element focused set. So let's look at the element. With the proper setup, we start with 630 base element, which is incredible. We multiply that by these sources, bringing you to 1,179.36. Then you have the flat increases, so you got burst 3, LE attack 3, and then the new Gog 2 set. So you'll get up to 1,359.3 element in this case. We'll debloat that to the true element, so 136. Times that by the white sharpness, so 15%, and you get the effective element of 156, which is absolutely incredible for a no RNG set. If you're interested in trying Chargeblade, this is the one to go for. If you were going to introduce some RNG, starting with the Talisman, you'd introduce something like this. So you want 4 attacks, so there's 3 on the actual Talisman, 1 in the first offensive slot. Maybe you have some bonus 1 slots there, that's up to your RNG. But then a relevant skill that you would normally decorate for. So that could be Agitator 1 or Burst 1. Is this technically better though? Well, you'll be losing 2 burst to gain 4 attack, which is definitely nice for the Raw, but you actually have less reliable element in this version. And if you're facing particularly weak to element monsters, like, I don't know, gogmazios, it's probably not even worth it. And the reason for that is because of how ridiculously effective the Chain Charm 3 is when fully upgraded. 3 levels of burst. It's such good value in this context. But if you were truly going to commit with your RNG Gogma and Talisman to push this as far as possible, this is what it would look like. For the Gogma weapon, you're going to need a specific role. Your active skills are going to want to be Gore Magala's Tyranny, so that's the set bonus of Gore, and Lord Soul, the Gamma set bonus. So I have this on both of my 2 main elements here. Then we have the armor set. We have new Udra Gamma helm and chest, the new Gog gloves in specifically alpha. We have the Gore waist in beta to give us the 2 sets since we have it on our weapon. And then finally, the Gog boots, specifically again in alpha. And underneath that, we have the RNG Talisman. In this case, we have the attack boost with the 1 attack boost in the first offensive slot, giving us 4 attack boosts for the % bonus. And then a secondary skill that we would decorate for. So in this case, Agitator. So it's pretty inflexible because that's the only 3 slot decoration slot skill we're going for. With that setup though, you use these decorations to achieve this skill list. So here is page 1, and then here is page 2. So it's a pretty insane set. Let's take a look at the math to show just how insane. Compared to the no RNG version, what you're getting is a lot more raw to work with. So 205 base raw to begin with again, but now we have 7% increase from Guts Tenacity and Attack 4, bringing us to 219.35. We increase that further by these flat increases, bringing us to 277.35. Multiply that by the white sharpness, 32%, and you get to 366.1. You have 55% reliable affinity from these sources, and no crit boost, so that's a 25% damage increase 55% of the time. Multiply that by a last number, and you get the respectable 417 effective raw. So it's a big raw increase compared to the no RNG version. What about the element? 630 base element multiplied by these sources bring you to the same 1179.36. Same flat increases as before, so that brings you again to 1359. And since the LE cap in this is 1449, you're less than 100 below that. Anyway, let's debloat that, bring you to the true element of 135.9 times 15% thanks to white sharpness, and that gets you again to the effective element of 156, which is incredible with the raw increase behind it. And in this set, even now, you could drop the RNG Talisman and just again go for the Burst Talisman for Burst 3. It'd be slightly inefficient in regards to your burst levels, but you'd of course have slightly higher element and lose some raw, but have a higher average element, you actually would hit overcap in that case. which in the case of specifically monstrous SAEDs that you want to be slamming, like Gog, it is actually worth considering. So pretty incredible stuff for the element sets. But next up then, we have the Raw builds. Let's take a look at what the weapon should look like for this one. Just as a reminder, when you're upgrading your Raw weapon, make sure you go for an attack focus with the dahaad devices. This will give you 10 Raw, but you will lose out on 15% affinity, bringing you to minus 10%. You can address your affinity problems through the gear set so much easier than actually increasing your Raw. And then say the EX bonuses and stuff when reinforcing it are so insane that it seems to win out over affinity in our checks so far. So when you're crafting your Artian weapon initially, it's a Paro weapon. You could also go for blast, but I prefer paralysis. With the 3 attack infusions at its production bonus. Then for reinforcement bonus, you'd actually want to change it. I don't have the ideal roll here. You'd want attack boost 4 of the 5 rolls and then 1 sharpness boost. That's because previously we were having sharpness issues, but now with 1 roll of sharpness EX, you get plus 50, which is enough to sort of bridge the gap, letting you get a 4th attack boost roll. In this case then, we'd be aiming for attack boost EX twice, then you'd have attack boost 3 times 2, and then the final line would be your sharpness EX roll. I don't have the perfect example, but here's a longsword that nearly rolled that, so you can see it. Attack boost EX twice, attack boost 3 twice, and then the sharpness roll, which ideally would be an EX. I've tried to re-roll this many times, and I've just not had the luck re-rolling it yet. We'll explain the active skills in a moment when we get to that max RNG set using the Gogma rolls. But for the offensive decorations, it's much the same as before. 5 crit boost, and then your magazine for load shells, and 1 level handicraft to back it up. Right, let's begin with the raw set for no RNG, so anyone can craft this immediately. And what's great about it being raw is that you don't need to element match, you can run this for everything. So for this then, we have the Ray Gamma Helm, we have the new Udra Gamma chest piece, we have the Guardian Ebony braces in beta. This is important because you can transcend these, so that takes it from a 2 and a 1 decoration slot to a 3 and a 2, which is incredible. Then we have the Ray Gamma waist, and finally the Guardian Ebony boots in beta again, for the second part of Burst Boost. And again, make sure this is transcended so that it goes from 2 and a 1 decoration slot to a 3 and a 2. For the talisman, we use the power charm for 3 levels of latent power. And I use these decorations to achieve this skill list. Here is page 1, here is page 2, and nothing important on page 3. Be aware that this will leave you with a single decoration slot that's empty, a 2 slot, so you can use it for whatever you like. I just put in a stamina surge. Let's see how this stacks up then. With the ideal rolls, it'll have 257 base raw. We times that by 5% thanks to Lord Soul, bringing you to 269.85. We have these flat increases, including Odo 2's Burst Boost to Enhance Burst 1, bringing us to 312.85. Multiply that by 32% thanks to White Sharpness, and you get to 412.9. We have 85% reliable affinity from these sources, and 5 crit boost, which is a 40% damage increase 85% of the time. So multiply that by the last number, and as you can see, we have a very respectable 553 effective raw for the raw no RNG set for Charge Blade. That's insane. But what if you want to include some RNG, starting with the Talisman? So same concept, still without the Gogma rolls, but now we're using an RNG Talisman. So in this case, we have the Ray Gamma Helm, the new Udra Gamma chest, again the Guardian Ebony gloves in beta for Odo, make sure this is transcended to increase the decoration slots, Ray Gamma waist, and the Guardian Ebony greaves in beta, again make sure this is transcended for the decoration slots. This gets us a second level of burst boost, that gets us our set bonus of burst boost, and for the RNG Talisman we're using attack boost 4, so one of those offensive slots goes to the attack boost 4th level, and then a secondary skill that you would decorate for. So in this case we have weakness exploit. So using these decorations, we achieve this skill list. So that's page 1, here is page 2, and then here's the final page. You'll also again see that we have the stamina surge decoration. This is a 2 slot that you can use for whatever you like. And if you have a better RNG talisman, you might even have some bonus 1 slots to work with as well. Here's the math to show how this enhances the effective raw ever so slightly to say that it's using an RNG talisman. So 257 base roll will be the ideal roll. We have Guts Tenacity in 4 attacks, so that's a 7% increase, bringing us to 274.99. We have flat additions from these sources, bringing us to 323.99. And we multiply that by 32% from the White Sharpness, bringing to 427.66. You have 76 reliable affinity from these sources, and 5 crit boost, which is a 40% damage increase 76% of the time. So we multiply that by the last number, and it gets you to 558 effective raw. So the RNG Talisman is adding 5 effective raw. There is not a massive difference there. So again, the no RNG set is an incredible starting point. But of course, if you want to fully commit with the RNG Talisman, and of course with your new Gogma rolls, the max RNG but max value has higher potential. There are 2 versions of this which basically work out the same, and it depends on what roll you have on your weapon. So this allows you to roll 2 different setups. You're going to either roll the active skill Ebony Odogron's Power, or Gore Tyranny, which is basically Ebony Odo's set bonus burst boost, or Gore's set bonus. Either one will work in the active skill first line, but for the second line, you will want Lord Soul. So hopefully that makes it easier to find. You'll want a slightly different gear set based on which you have. So I have the Ebony or Burst Boost, which means I don't have Gore 2-piece. So I'm going to have to use the gear to get it. Let's say you had the Gore roll on your weapon instead, well then you would need 2 pieces of the Guardian Ebony, and only 1 Gore. So we have the Ray Gamma Helm, the new Udra Gamma Chest, the Guardian Ebony Gloves in Basin, make sure they're transcended so they have increased decoration slots. And either way, you're going to have the Gore Boots in Beta. And then the question is the waist. If like me, you have Ebony Odo on your weapon, then you would run the 2-piece of Gore as the waist in Beta. If instead you have Gore's Tyranny on your Gogma weapon, you'll need to run 2 pieces of Guardian Odo. So in that case, for the waist, you'd run the Guardian Ebony waist in Beta, and again make sure it's transcended for the decoration slot increase. Either way, you have your Talisman. This is 4 attacks, so 3 on the actual Talisman, 1 in the offensive decoration slot, and then a secondary skill, and that would be Weakness Exploit or Agitator, whichever you have and which has better slots. Then you swap the decorations around to match the same skill list. So here's the decoration slots to achieve the skill list. Here's page 1 of the skill list, here's page 2 of the skill list, and finally the last page. What can you achieve with all this RNG then? Let's take a look. With the ideal setup, you'll have 257 base raw, multiplied by 7% from guts and attack 4, bring you to 274.99. You have these flat increases from these sources, including burst boost from Ebony Odo, bring you to 328.99. Multiplied by 32% from white sharpness, and we get to 434.26. We have 78% reliable affinity from these sources. We have 5 crit boosts, that's a 40% damage increase, 78% of the time. Multiply that by a last number, and that gets you to a very awesome 570 effective roll, which is like nearly 100 more than last time. I will say the difference between the 2 versions we just covered, if you have the Gore on weapon version, this will actually result in 1 more level of burst, so it's a small improvement. If you could choose between them then, you'd ideally have the Gore roll on your weapon over the Odo weapon. But again, like me, if that's what you pulled, the Odo version's fine. Either way, massive jump forward for Raw Charge Blade. But yeah, there you have it. That is Charge Blade in Title Update 4, which, you know, we're expecting to be shifted up even more with our next Arch Tempered. Jin dahaad is very soon, right? So we may very well revisit this in a couple days. Until then, I hope this has been helpful. I've been Hollow, you've been you, and thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.